On this episode of This Old Junk, we're going to be getting airborne in my 1973 Volkswagen Baja. So on my list of chores to do for this car is the wiring, a front bumper, lots of interior work. And I don't mean putting it back to original. I mean that there's a brake line running through the middle of the floor. The seat track is not really connected to anything. I did bolt the battery box down in the back of the floor. This is kind of rotted out and wide open. The engine ran pretty well last time I had it running, which was about a year ago. The thing almost caught on fire because of some shoddy wiring. So I took all the wiring out of the car and really hadn't had time to get back to it. Here's under the hood as of now. I removed the fuel tank and all the wiring due to the wiring just being in such bad shape. Now that we've got it up in the air, we can get a better look at the undercarriage. This is a 1776 stroker engine, which ran pretty good. I put the breathers you see there on the valve covers and the breather up high on the oil tube to help protect the engine from dirt and give it a way to ventilate without blowing seals. Do have a little oil leak on the oil pan gasket. CV joints need to be replaced. This one has a coat hanger wrapped around it. Probably need to do the shocks. Whenever I would get this thing into a drifting slide, I would hit the bump stops pretty hard and the car would scrub a little bit. These bolts here for where I mounted the battery pan, I knew or battery tray, I knew the pans are pretty much shot, so I didn't really have any issue with drilling through and just putting some grade 8 bolts. But you can see the pans themselves are shot and metal was laid over them, and that might be part of my problem with my seats. I may have to either put some new pans in or take this stuff out and maybe put something a little bit heavier duty like some diamond plate or something in there. I did go through the ball joints in the front end about a year ago. Car hasn't really been driven too much since then. So these bolts are full of dirt and mud and caked in crap. So I'm just using some dish soap and water to kind of loosen that stuff up. Maybe give the socket, well, the driver, a little bit better of a bite. And this is a specialty tool. It's a 8mm spline drive to remove these CV joints. When in doubt, use more power. Oh yeah, I brought my hair protection over here for a reason. Now I'll pull the ones out of the transaxle. Mom, do you want some hair protection? Okay.
I'm good.
pretty, ew, that is nasty. That is broke right there. I'd say that's incredibly broke. Alright, off to the parts store. Better go call the parts store so they can tell me they don't have what I need. That's more likely the scenario.
What are you doing?
We're moving dirt from the bolt head.
Wow.
Just a little bit in there.
Good protection so you don't go deaf
Yeah.
later.
And what are you wearing?
Oh, I'm already old enough. I don't need it.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Anyway, you do as I say, not as I do.
I'm sure you said something, but I couldn't hear you.
Good. You'll hear it later.
Right. Awesome. While I'm waiting for parts, I'm going to run my bolts and retainers through this tumbler. This tumbler was free with Weenie Wagon 2.0 as part of the previous owner stuff that was never cleaned out. I've never used it, but I did check it and it does work. So I'm going to pre-clean these parts a little bit just so I don't contaminate the media. And then I'll throw them in there and see what they look like when they come out. I let the bolts run in the tumbler for about 18 hours. They got a lot cleaner than they were, but not near as clean as I wanted them to. The new CV axles came with new bolts, and these have Allen heads instead of spline. It did not come with new retainers or new washers, so I will have to reuse them. And again, they still didn't come as clean as I wanted them to in the tumbler. Might need to use fresh media, but I'm going to clean these up just a little bit more before I install them. Here you go, buddy. Daddy's going to work on your bus. Look. Look. Now put your hubcap on. And look. Your wheel is sliding in and out. So we need to add some shelves. Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
Okay, be careful. Let's get Daddy's pliers and some more washers. Okay. There we go. That's a little bit better. All right, wait. I'm going to put an additional washer in here. Still slide a little bit. Hold on. Wait. Okay, pick that up, please. You put it on? Excellent job. Wait, no, put them back.
He's trying to make it straight. He wants to put them both on himself. He wants to try to put them on at the same time.
Okay, push them on. Okay, push the other one on. Excellent. Now last one. Now we gotta put our retainer clip on. You say retainer clip?
Retainer clip.
That's right. Great job.
And the other one. And the other one.
Uh-oh. What?
Hi, Dad.
Hello, buddy. There we go. Oh, that's nice. Okay, we gotta put our hubcap back on. Let's line up the tabs.
Is this your one?
And snap it in. That is an extra part. These are the new CV axles. According to the instructions, the bearings have come pre-packed with grease. The new grease goes on the vehicle side of installation. The instructions were very explicit about not letting these CV axles hang during installation. So I just ran a starter bolt in each side to hold it in place until I can put the retainers and the rest of the bolts in. I tightened them all up with a ratchet opposite of each other. So in other words, I tightened the one on bottom, spun at 180 degrees, and tightened the one on the bottom again. And did that until all 6 are snugged on the transaxle and the wheel assembly. So I'm going to use that same sequential order to torque all 12 bolts at 35 foot-pounds. And the bolt snapped. I zip tied the CV out the way, making it easier to extract the bolt. Here's a comparison of the new bolts and the old bolts. The new bolts and the old bolts are about the same overall length, but if you look at where the head seats on the new bolt, it's further recessed than the old bolt. This is what got me into trouble because the bolt went further in, and instead of torquing, it snapped. The CV axles are back in the Baja, this time with no snap bolts, and they are all torqued. They seem to be spinning okay and not binding, so I think that's about all we're going to do to the Baja for today. It still don't run, but at least the axles look good. Can you say, all done this old junk?